Okay, now we're going to go on to part two. My name is Dr. Dennis Saccuzzo, and we're going to be talking about a super approach to organizing, learning, remembering, and studying. And now what I want to do in this next section is simply make you aware of the various learning techniques and procedures. And I'm going to just do that by looking at a couple of fairly recent studies. And the first study on the tools is after Harvey et al., 2014, Perspectives on Psychological Science, Volume 9, on page 161, which you can look up and see all of the explanations that they give. I just want you to have a flavor for these. All right, the first one is attention recruitment. Now, this is more of a technique in which you try to wake yourself up, you try to focus yourself. If you encode with a focused mind, then it goes in and it's going to be a lot easier to bring it back. But if your mind is drifting or wandering or you're tired and so on, then what you need to do is recruit your attentional resources. One of the ways you can do it is by talking to yourself, self-talk. Just tell yourself to wake up. Simply make a purposeful, conscious effort to focus, and you can actually enhance your ability to attend through such techniques as meditation. In categorization, it's a type of organization where we try to put things into the logical categories. So again, we're going to make use of categorization as a way of condensing what we need to know. Evaluation is simply a part of elaborative rehearsal where we not just take something in, but instead what we do is we make some kind of judgment about it, good, bad, whatever. You evaluate it, and when you evaluate it, you're recruiting other cognitive skills and thereby enhancing all of the learning. Application. You should try to apply your knowledge. The more you apply your knowledge, then you make it part of you. It becomes part of your ordinary long-term memory, which you can recall at will if you keep applying something. So use your knowledge every chance you get. One way to use your knowledge is try to make it personal. What does this mean for me personally? And just give it a thought. And I think you'll be surprised that a lot of the things you're learning, maybe you think it's not that important. But if you can find a relationship to you, then again, it makes it easier to become part of you. Repetition, I've mentioned briefly. Now, in repetition, you repeat, say again what you just learned. Now, rote repetition, as I indicated in part one, is not a very good way to go. So you don't just simply repeat it. Instead, what you want to do is process at a deeper level by thinking about it some more. So don't simply repeat the same thing again and again and again. In fact, Harvey et al. Found the repetition to be a very low value. And it is all by itself. They did say that if you distribute your repetition, as I indicated in part one, so that you repeat it now and then you repeat it 10 minutes later and then you repeat it 10 minutes later, the distributed practice would enhance long-term memory, but it's really not the most effective tool in the world. However, there is a way to use repetition that is very effective, and that's what we're going to get into in the final part. Practice recalling. Memory is a skill. Recalling is a skill. And the more you practice something, the better you get at it. There's a lot of benefits to practice recalling, by the way. I mean, if you're in a conversation with someone, try to remember what they're saying to you. And you might be able to relate to that person a lot better as well. So practice recalling, and you will exercise that muscle of the mind and get better and better at it. And I've discussed the use of cues. What you'll want to do is try to get a cue for categories. If you have several things you're categorizing, then label each one, and that's the cue. The cue then alerts the mind to everything that follows the cue. Having a cue makes it much easier to remember something. By the way, there are also the cues and the circumstances. So if you ever have an experience where you were successful, where you were remembering well, where you were on your game. Try to remember the cues that were associated with that situation, because there'll come a time when you'll want to recreate that mental state, and you can do so by recalling the cues.